What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. So I've been getting so many questions about this stuff recently, so I thought I'd make a video looking at some of the weird kind of troll builds in the LCS recently, and you can decide whether it's actually quite clever, like a legit idea, or just dumb. The first one actually comes from Froggen, which I think kind of went a bit more unnoticed than the other one afterwards. Twisted Fate in the LCS isn't really a new thing, right? But Rapid Fire Cannon Twisted Fate is something a little bit different, actually. He did this in both games against Immortals as well when he played Twisted Fate. Same order, same build order as well. The build was Rod of Ages into Lichbane, and then he got the Rapid Fire Cannon afterwards. The obvious thing to answer is, why would you do that anyway? And the increased auto range actually from Rapid Fire Cannon works with his W. So long range Lichbane procs stun card. That's pretty overpowered in that way, to be honest. Like, he just ran around the entire game and used a gold card from so far away. It was really good mid game to set up fights or even just poke from a very high range. It's also very good at taking towers easily, actually. You stand way back, you auto once for the Lichbane damage onto a tower. The other stats aren't even wasted either, to be honest, on it. Well, actually maybe crit is kind of, but his E gives bonus attack speed and deals magic damage every 4th attack, remember. That magic damage is 155 plus 50% of your AP rank 5. That is no joke, to be honest, and the attack speed helps you stack it faster. Also, actually, a nice little addition onto this, Rapid Fire Cannon proc damage is magic. So on an AP champion with Magic Pen or a Void Staff, it'll actually do more than on an AD carry, which is kind of a nice little extra touch. Just to remember, by the way, this was both in high damage comps with him, so he didn't necessarily have to go full damage to carry. This is kind of more of a set up the play kind of build. You ultimate into the enemy team with Zonius, for example, that kind of thing. I'm not saying you should do that, by the way. If you do and you die, it's not my fault, but that kind of like play setting up, play making is what he was trying to do. Late game, he also sold this for a death cap, by the way, and that was his very last item. So what do you think about Rapid Fire Cannon Twisted Fate to start with? Is this actually good, or is it kind of boosted? I'm going to give him a good stamp here. I think it's clever. It's been done a little bit before, even if it was ages ago, but I don't think it's been done in the LCS before. With more communication and team play, this should be even better, right? You run around as a unit, he really high range gold cards you, and the rest of his team piles onto you. They catch people off guard all the time, and it's really hard to play against, actually, especially Ghost Twisted Fate. Like, he's either going to ghost onto you and max range stun, which you can't really run away from, or he's going to ultimate into you and you can't really flash away from that range. The tower pressure, though, is something I really like, actually, even for our games. If you're struggling to break through, then you can just get blue or red card on the tower like a Caitlyn with Lichbane. Rapid Fire only really works with the Lichbane, in my opinion. The extra damage combined with the Rapid Fire damage makes this burst really hard from really far away. So the next one in this video is the one I got loads of questions about, Wild Turtle's Callista CDR Essence Reaver build. We're going to take a bit more of a look at this, though, because in some ways it's not a terrible idea. He actually went at BF Sword into boots to Runins to start with. That is a legit build on Callista anyway. That is fine. Then he turns that BF Sword into an Essence Reaver, though, and he gets a Death Stance after that. After that, he grabs Hex Drinker and starts Last Whisper before the game ends. So this caps him at 40% cooldown reduction with Death Stance and Essence Reaver, and I think that's the main thing he was aiming for. It must have been. Rend and his Q Pierce have 8-second cooldowns, actually rank 5. So that's almost 5 seconds with the cooldown reduction. It's not amazing, but that's kind of decent, actually. Your Q can be used for poke as well as to reposition, remember, and your E-Rens can slow as well as do damage. Maybe that's part of it as well. You have like AoE Ren stacks with your Runins. You use it to slow and kite, and then it kind of comes off cooldown again pretty soon, and you can kill them and use it for damage that time around. Or it's just constant slows after slows after slows with your Rend, which is pretty ridiculous, actually. Your ultimate will obviously also be up more often to help save your support, and that trusty ghost from your W that can be used more often. I assume its recharge time works with cooldown reduction, but honestly, I've never tested that one, funnily enough. The other thing to remember is it also does give 50% crit, and your Runin's bolts can crit as well, but full build, he wasn't even going to have an Infinity Edge to buff or increase that damage. So this is why it's a bit weird for me. It's how he chose to get to 40% cooldown. This is what his build gave him, and it cost him 9,700 gold, which is pretty expensive, actually. Essence Reaver is a very expensive item. Now, instead, as an alternative to show you kind of what he could be building instead, we could get this and with a Black Cleaver, and it would be 9,200 gold, so 500 cheaper. We'd lose 20 AD and 10% cooldown reduction, 20% crit, but we gain the healthy AoE armor shred and the phage move speed, and we have 500 gold extra. I think this might make a bit more sense, right, if he really wanted the cooldown reduction. I know it leaves 10% off out this way, but at least for me, like, getting crit without an Infinity Edge doesn't really make that much sense. This is also ignoring that Blade the Ring King has been buffed, by the way, and does more percentage health damage. Like, when they had a Shen on the enemy team who will be ripped apart by that more, it makes sense to buy it. His build actually gets Arm Pen very late, and his E damage is physical. Rend is physical damage. It needs Arm Pen to still be effective. His build relies on crit and constant Rend applications to do damage, but he only has 50% crit and no Infinity Edge. The thing with Callista is most of your damage is going to come from your Rend, so you want to attack very fast to apply it all the time, and she can stack that on 3 targets at once, remember. Her actual autos are not that strong, and that's why ideally we want to pack some on-hit damage damage that applies on our attacks, and we just attack really fast to get more rend stacks and apply that damage. Now, to be fair, okay, Kalista's Q has 100% AD ratio, which is very good. Rend is 60%, and they're both on 5-second cooldowns. That's with the 40% cooldown reduction. That is not that bad, and stacking some AD is pretty good, actually. I just feel like the crit is misplaced a little bit in this build. So obviously, I am no Wild Turtle. I'm not saying I'm as good as him at all, but what do you guys think of this build? What do you think he was trying to do? Do you think I've given it like a fair representation in this video? Honestly, CDR Kalista is not that bad in theory. Some potential to mass slow repeatedly and constantly render multiple targets, as well as throwing Q out all the time, but the mix of stats doesn't really align properly, or it doesn't even synergize with each other. Let me know what you think of this series and whether I should do any more or not, taking a proper look at some of the weirder pro builds. Sometimes they look weird, but they actually make a lot of sense stat-wise, and sometimes they just don't. But thank you for watching, and for now, let's go to the robots.